it's in the name, right? Compliance automation platform.
Yeah.
You're thinking, great, I need SOC 2. I get this thing. I can automate this, right? In reality, you're only automating a certain portion of the workload that it takes to achieve SOC 2, ISO, whatever. Much of what we do as an MSSP is have that conversation with the prospect. Great, you have Drata, Vanta, whatever. What's your plan to get to 100%?
One of the main topics for today's podcast is the idea of like, you can't force someone to care. Our jobs as salespeople is to show them the like, whoa, you're not thinking about this business outcome or like the impact of this, of like not making this decision, right? The cost of an action. But if I put that in front of them and they don't care, like there's nothing I can do about it, right?
Yeah, that is true, but it also speaks to the importance of bringing in people above that power line.
For sure.
Because it could be in this instance that they don't care, but we actually have never talked to the people that would care the most about this, which would be leadership team.
Yeah.
So while that is true, I think that it's a function of really what their role in the company is, in that they're IT. And so a lot of times IT is disconnected from the actual business as a whole and doesn't necessarily think the way that a CEO or a leadership team or a board will think about these types of things and the ramifications that will have. So that can be said about many of the deals that we've been working on in the past few months. The one that I'm working on right now, it wasn't a problem until we were able to show the contract value that was on the table if this didn't start moving forward faster.
Right. Well, tell me about this deal.
Well, essentially, the deal was booked back in January.
Okay.
There was a big gap from the very beginning, but the deal wasn't moving quickly at all. It was more so, we met the first time, let's touch base in 3 months. Let's touch base in 3 months. Main idea was going after SOC 2.
Oh, okay.
It currently has 0 compliance frameworks. They are a purchaser of a compliance automation platform.
Okay.
So they have that. And really the purpose of the conversation, the reason that we got into the call to begin with, was really that you're using Drata, you're going after SOC 2, let's show you some of the best practices that other organizations are using to accomplish this.
Right.
We said, hey, there's value here. Let's continue this conversation. So that's what we did.
Wait, did he have Drata set up?
He had it. It was not set up.
Yeah.
And so that was also part of it, was, hey, we can show you how to successfully get onto this platform, make the use of it. Really, that cadence of every 3 months continued up until August, and we were set to have another meeting, and the prospect wanted to push it out. And so at this point, I had to step in as the trusted advisor and say, with all due respect, I think this would be a mistake. We're heading into Q4 of 2025. You've determined that this is something that the organization needs to do by the end of 2026. We can't afford to push this until November or December.
Are you saying that like you met with him first in like January, February, and then like by now it's like August and he still hasn't done anything with Drata?
Correct. Well, they've done a couple of things, but we're talking a very, very low investment of time and energy into this. For all intents and purposes, you're still at 0, right? So part of that conversation was, this needs to be a priority if you plan on getting this done by the end of next year, because much of what we talked about is his baseline security posture being extremely poor. We're talking extremely poor. Most notably, it's over 100 people. There are 100 employees at this organization. There has, to date, never been an MDM solution in place.
Bro, what?
0 MDM.
Drata's not going to help you with that.
Correct. And that's part of the conversation that we have to have with a lot of customers that use automation platforms, is that the platform is really there so that you can plug your things into it and understand where you fall within the compliance framework.
Yeah.
They're not going to actually go and implement the security controls for you. It's a way for me to get a diagnostic, if anything, be able to see, in accordance with SOC 2, here's where I stand today, here's what I need to work on, but it's not going to go fix the things for you.
Right. Like,
And so there's this.
The main thing is the evidence collection, right? It's like, yeah, if the Intune policies are set up and when you integrate Intune into Drata, it will go take those snapshots of here's the policy that shows, I don't know, I'm going to say something like BitLocker is currently encrypted on all the devices, right? But if you don't have BitLocker set up, it's not going to be helpful. Like, Drata's not going to be helpful in getting you to go deploy that for 100 people. And it's also probably not going to help. It's definitely not going to help you having to enroll like 100+ people into Intune in the first place, right?
Correct. So a lot of the times, much of what we do as an MSSP is have that conversation with the prospect. Great. You have Drata, Vanta, whatever. What's your plan to get to 100%?
Sheesh.
Because a lot of times, it's in the name, right? Compliance automation platform.
Yeah.
You're thinking, great, I need SOC 2. I get this thing. I can automate this, right?
Yeah.
I can automate this. In reality, you're only automating a certain portion of the workload that it takes to achieve SOC 2, ISO, whatever. And so much of what we're having to do is show the gap that actually exists once you're plugged in to your platform that you have to go and do yourself or hire somebody to do in order to bring those controls up to where they should and maintain them over time, because that is part of it. SOC 2 Type 2 is you have to maintain it, right? So who's going to do that?
Yeah.
And so with this prospect in particular, given that they have the platform, but they don't have any of the underlying security infrastructure, which SOC 2 is at least 40% of these types of controls, then what is the plan to go and get this done? That's going to take people, it's going to take tools that you don't have today, and it's going to take a lot of time. And so those are the things that made that such a important thing to tell this prospect, that if you don't start today, it's not going to happen. There's no way that you're going to go and achieve SOC 2 Type 2 by the end of next year if you don't start putting a plan together now, asking for budget, thinking about hiring plans, whether that's internal, external, factoring in the tools that you don't have to go and achieve that, so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's a very common thing that we're seeing.
And don't get me wrong, like, I would never try to attempt to do this without a GRC platform. Would never try. Absolute of a godsend of a product category. But
100%. You have to know its limitations. You have to know its role in this, though.
What made him, like, are you talking to him more frequently now? Like, what's happening now? Like, is it he's still pushing you off or what?
Ever since we sort of had that revelation, we got into the meeting. We had our CISO, Bruno, come in. We did a formal assessment of his existing security baseline, identified the gaps, and basically gave recommendations. From that meeting on, it's been a weekly meeting for the past month, and we're pushing very, very fast now to actually go towards making a buying decision on this. And I'll also say that one of the big things outside of just the gap has been quantifying the business impact that this is going to have on the organization.
Yeah.
So many people, when they think about compliance and they're in IT, it's not the case for this particular example, but in many people that we do talk to, they know that they need to get SOC 2. They don't necessarily understand quantifiably why that's such a big deal for the organization. It's flowing from leadership. We've determined that we need to go and get SOC 2. That's coming from sales or some other.
Sure.
We want to get an investment or whatever the case may be. But the IT team is really the doers. They're not thinking about it from that high level perspective. And so when we do start to get into these conversations and you start to think about additional tooling, additional people, vendors, time investment, so on and so forth, they need to understand why this is important for the overall organization. Because let's say that the total cost of ownership of achieving this is $300,000 for a medium-sized organization. How does that $300,000? It sounds expensive.
Sure.
But it's not when you compare that to $10 million worth of business outcome, right?
Sure. Maybe talk about how does it come out to $300,000, right? You know, it can really depend on if you're a small company and it's like 8 to 10K for this GRC platform, or maybe you're, like a 2 to 300 person company and it's more like 50 to 80K. What, like, let's say you're a smaller organization and the GRC platform by itself is in most cases around like 20 to 30. Where's the other like 270 coming from?
It's a good question. And it's part of our education process that we have with these prospects is that you need to think about all of the pieces that are involved here. It could be, for some organizations, that the delta is literally the compliance automation platform and the audit, right? It could be. Depends on where you're starting from.
Yeah.
It could also be that you go and you get a compliance automation platform and you think, I'm good to go. But in reality, you don't have the internal resources
Yeah.
or the tools today to actually go and take you from 0 to 100% and then go pass your audit.
Happens all the time. Dude, I talked to this one guy, and I want to say he wasn't IT. He was like a web developer or something. Like it was mostly like a professional services organization, and I feel like I see this a lot in the companies that are like not software. He bought Drata, or the company bought Drata, and he was like, "Hey, I want to take this initiative," but they didn't have any IT people, right? 250, 300 people, no IT people. And he bought Drata and he was like, whoa, I'm having such a hard time. Like, how do I get through this, like, device management piece? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I don't have an MDM. So this control is, like, down, but I don't know how to solve it. I was like, you gotta get an MDM solution. Like, you don't have Intune? And he's like, oh no. Like, no Jamf, no managed engine, none of that stuff. And he's like, no. He's like, actually, like, my company's against it. I was like, your company's against an MDM? He's like, yeah, like, the organization as a whole, we're all about, like, trust. We're all about trust. And we trust people to do, like, good work with their own laptops. Like, we don't spy on them. We don't whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but you got no idea what your 300 people do with those devices, right? And he's just like sitting there and he's like, but like, I just thought I had to get Drata and I would just plug everything. I'm like, yeah, for sure. But like, it's not gonna deploy and enroll like their 300 devices. He's like, oh my God, but that seems like a lot of work. Yeah, it is a lot of work. Especially if you're from where you're starting from is 300 users, your company's been around for 20 plus years, your professional services, you don't have an MSP, you don't have any IT people. Like, holy shit, I don't even know how your company operates on a daily basis, let alone like trying to get SOC 2, right? Yeah, dude, like you're not getting SOC 2, it's not possible, right? Like the sheer unsurmountable amount of work it's going to take you to get there, your company's going to have to invest a lot of money into this, right? So
Yeah, it's educate first, right?
yeah.
And that's very common because now more companies are going after things like SOC 2, in part because just more of a remote workforce, right? We need to have more stringent ways of objectively quantifying that these companies can be trusted to do business with, to hold our data, to do these things, right? So a lot of companies have been around for a while, and they've just naturally grown to a point where they have over 100 people, 200 people, and they've never really had to do these things because it was never really an issue before.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of it is just educating and helping them to understand that you did get this far, but if you want to go further, now we're going to have to go and play catch up.
Yeah.
Right? All the things that you should have been doing, it's no fault of your own, maybe you didn't know. All things you should have been doing for the past...
Usually the people that we're talking to are only there for like 6 months anyway. And they're like, hey, this thing just dropped in my lap and my boss said, hey, you should take care of this.
Well, that's part of the thing too, though, is that a lot of companies think that, well, if I have somebody technical, we should be able to go and figure this out, right? Yeah. A dev is not the same as a security engineer or a dedicated IT manager, etc., right?
Yeah.
So it's very common in companies that are SaaS, right? They have a very, very well-built dev team, doesn't mean that they're going to be the best team to go and get SOC 2, ISO 27001, etc. Can they figure it out? For sure. Should they figure it out?
Yeah.
That's another question. So leadership, I think, needs to be a bigger part of the compliance conversation, because it is an investment. It is a company culture shift, company philosophy shift in many cases. You probably don't have the resources or staffing to handle this the way that it should be,
Yeah.
realistically.
It's expensive, even with a GRC platform.
It is expensive, but it's justifiably expensive. And that's the part that many people don't quite understand. It's to think, hey, if you have this function of your, let's say, your sales team, if you have this function of your business that's responsible for bringing in $10 million per year, right?
Yeah.
Let's say a sales team. Would you not want to make sure that they have the best tools, you have the best AEs, you have the best managers, you have the best...
Of course.
Right? But nobody really thinks that way about compliance, though. Or at least many people don't think that way about compliance, where the enabler to be able to go after mid-market enterprise customers and get $10 million worth of contracts
Right.
should also be well-staffed and funded. And we shouldn't just tack that on to the back of the IT manager who's been there for 10 years and just helps with support desk tickets.
Right.
Right? So, at least from our experience, the deals that are moving best and the deals that are moving with momentum are the ones where there is that connection to the overall business outcome. And it's not just seen as like a side quest for the IT department to go and do as part of the 2025, 2026 goals, right?
Right.